Welcome back to Two Homers and a Realist. We are out here on the patio enjoying some beautiful cold weather. The cold front has come through. It's gorgeous outside for a July evening. I'm Steve.
82 degrees.
82 degrees says
Lucas.
Jay.
Connor.
And we have a special guest, everybody. We have Jayesh Bodka. He is is it fair to say a lifelong OU fan? Or nearly so?
Yeah, as soon as I could,
As soon as you could
I was
breathe?
allowed to watch TV. How about that?
Well, that's perfect. Tell us, Jay, what's your origin story as an OU fan?
I think some of my earliest memories were my parents and my uncles dressing me up in the OU football costume on those OU Nebraska games and the Orange Bowls. Just being a 4, 5, 6-year-old, watching those games and just seeing my dad and his friends, my uncles, just
Lose their mind.
losing their, Switzer, Charles Thompson. I think that was, that Charles Thompson was probably the first person, I would think of or remember, that
was a good team.
introduced me to OU football.
That goes way back.
Yeah.
Like, that makes
so
you
I might have
old.
been like 5. Yeah, I am old. Yeah.
Yeah, you
That's
don't look
awesome.
that old.
So,
You get some cred for that.
yeah. And, I don't have any brothers. I have an older sister, but my 2 cousins who are my brothers, they're hardcore Nebraska fans. They grew up in Nebraska, and so there was also, like, that rivalry.
Huh.
But, yeah, I would say, if that was the first player that was ever introduced to me was Charles Thompson.
You kind of cut your teeth on the Lane years because that was right as everything was kind of getting in the twilight.
Yeah.
And then we had the Gibbs years and the Schnellenberger year and the John Blake years. So, man, that's true OU football love right there. That's not like somebody who just got born into the championship years, and it's easy to love it then.
All these millennials.
All these millennials with all their, wow.
All their Big 12 titles.
Yeah, exactly. What do you mean we don't always win? That's pretty cool. Well, we'll come back.
I've had to watch us lose national championships, guys.
Oh,
Yeah, we were there too.
And that's
yeah.
painful.
Yeah, I think we all have.
The millennials have gone through some pain as well.
Yeah, we hear about it all the time. So we're going to come back to some of that, Jay, and we're going to put you through kind of a get to know who you are as a fan in a little bit. But first, let's turn to some things that are like what's new, guys. What's developing? We're in the heart of summer, the heart of workouts. I was actually having lunch with the grandparents of one of our preferred walk-ons the other day, and they were talking about how super excited they are and he is and how well he's fitting in. He is one of the offensive linemen, Ace Hodges, excuse me.
Please don't mess this up.
Yeah, right. And he's got so many great things to say about it. And of course I'm hearing this through his grandparents, but he did not grow up an OU fan. They weren't OU fans primarily, but they are just falling in love with the whole system. They say that everything is on the right track and they're doing it the right way. He is both. I said offensive line. He's actually went both ways in high school, and I think he's actually going to be on the defensive line. He switched, as it was news to me the other day, which obviously means he's behind a lot of talent, and he's not being intimidated by that. He's just out there working hard every day. But he said that related through them that it is just a very impressive machine, and everything's going in the right direction. He's in the heart of workouts with Schmitty, so it sounds like it is just pain, but it's exciting. They did say that he's up like at 6 a.m. working hard, and by the end of the day, he is ready to go to bed. So it's not the typical college kids experience.
Yeah, that summer program, I think it ends this week. I think this is the last week of summer workouts before fall camp, or either this week or next week. It's something soon, but everything you want to hear, right? Going into
it's all the right stuff.
Going into the conference. So SEC media days were this week. Caught a couple of clips of Venables and Stutzman and Bowman and Arnold all talking I was talking to Lucas earlier. A bunch of the coach speak that we hear on a regular basis, just more on a national scale. But I think Brent has the right mindset going into this. I think I don't think he's shying away from the pressure, but also I think he's acknowledging that this is a different monster that you're dealing with, right? You're not marching in as a Texas or an Oklahoma in the Big 12. You're marching in as one of many teams who can win games in the SEC, where you're going to have to compete week in and week out. So I'm glad we're having the conversations now around, I think that culture that we've all kind of alluded to is solidifying, and it's becoming more of a norm and an expectation as opposed to an adjustment that we've seen over the last couple of years, which is exactly what we need. So I don't know. It's going to be a lot of talk like this over the next few weeks.
Oh, it's ramping up. I'm just
like,
everywhere.
I don't know. This offseason has felt so short relative to other off seasons.
It's the shortest.
And
Personally, I think.
It's
absolutely flowing.
And I expected it to be just immensely long because of the anticipation that we have. But I'm hoping it's shorter because I feel like we are in a relatively good position to go out there and compete on the field.
Jay, you missed the last pod. You were out doing some deep research. And so you've come back with some information for us. Tell us, you had something you wanted to draw a comparison or something.
Yeah, so I wanted to look at not Lincoln's last year, what he left for us defensively, because I didn't think that was a fair assessment. I wanted to look at the season after he left, because that's what he, so to speak, left in the cupboard for us, which wasn't much. And, till you see it on paper, sometimes you don't really remember. But let's just go just defensively here. And offensively, it's Lincoln still left us a bunch on offense. Obviously, took Caleb, etc. But offense is still loaded. But I really just wanted to show an example of where the defense has gone so far under Brent. So, in 2022, the starters, this is for the Texas game. Defensive line.
This is the Texas game that we got beat 49-0.
Yes.
Correct.
It was Downs, Redmond, and Grimes. That was our starting defensive front.
Okay.
So contrast that with projections for our starters this year. You're looking at Downs, who is 2 more years matured. Dominic Williams.
An All-American.
Terry, and R. Mason Thomas. And
so Williams and Terry, by the way, we saw the other day, over 300 pounds.
Correct.
Over
320.
The biggest jump of that is we got to have 4 guys on offensive line.
Correct. And then if you go, it wasn't even worth going to the backups, honestly,
in
from 2022, because it didn't even matter. But now you can go down to a third line where your second string could be Woolard, the Ohio transfer, and
will be, yeah.
Stone, Grayson Halton, and PJ. And then your third rotation could be Ford, Jackson, Strong. I mean, we've literally gone from 3 to 11 to
Incredible
12
depth.
players that could step in and be easily as good as the starting 3 in 2020.
Well, yeah, especially even with Downs, who's 2 years younger in that 2022 class. You're looking at maybe anybody on that third string could start over any of those guys.
Yeah.
And definitely the second string, including true freshmen. And then, of course, obviously, the starters.
Correct. So then if you went with just a 2-man rotation at linebacker, which they had, you had Danny, again.
Much younger.
Young Danny, and Ugwebu. To now, you have Danny, probably Kip Lewis, with their backups being Kobe and Kanik. Or Lewis Carter.
Yeah.
So now you've gone from 2 to 5.
Or McCullough.
But McCullough on certain downs, goal lines and
he's been
stuff
working.
especially, right?
Yeah, he's been working linebacker.
Yeah. So then this one's fairly mind-blowing to be completely
Well, you've
honest.
already actually been mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Because you've multiplied it. I mean, the other guys are just bodies, to tell you the truth. No,
Yeah.
no
They're
offense
they're
to them, but
to
the guys
rotate in when
the
they're-
guys
when
you
the
didn't
starters
mention
tired.
are just bodies.
Yeah.
And so you're already like a 5-2 situation.
And somehow it gets worse after this.
No, it makes sense.
So your first year cheetah for Brent Venables was Deshaun White.
Who ended up having a really
He did better there,
decent
but
season.
it's still Deshaun
But
White.
it's
Yeah, his last 3 or 4 games that season were
it's a
were
step
good.
down from where we're at.
But now you've got Dolby, who they are just ridiculously high on. That's if Peyton Bowen
Yeah.
isn't your starting cheetah.
Right.
And then McCullough on several downs. So then you move to your corners. You had DJ Graham, a young Woody Washington, and a Jaden Davis. Now you've got Gentry Williams, a much older Woody Washington, a Des Malone transfer, Makari Vickers, Jacoby Johnson, and so forth. And then at the safety room is so incomparable, it's just not even funny. So to start the 2022 Texas game, you had Justin Broyles and Morrison, who I can't remember his first name.
Wasn't Trey Morris.
Okay? I don't know.
Also, Billy Bowman was hurt that game. He got hurt a couple days before.
Fair.
Okay, so
On a-
A young
Morrison.
So a fair.
this guy?
So a young Bowman, to
a
be
freshman.
fair.
Freshman.
Well, no, he was a sophomore.
No, because he's just a junior.
No, his
He's a
first
true
season was
junior.
his first season was with Lincoln when Lincoln was putting him all over the field, and
Okay.
didn't have him in the right.
They're
position.
family. He would
That's
know.
true.
Yeah, he's going to be my future cousin-in-law like 30
Okay,
times. for me.
okay, fine. They have Broyles, and let's just say a young Billy Bowman. And now you've got potential All-American, first-team SEC Billy Bowman, Robert Spears-Jennings,
Who is a beast apparently.
Peyton Bowen, and then maybe like the freshman Reggie Powers or I can't think of the other guy's other freshman name. Boganowski or I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's
there's
just
guys
you
out
can't even compare.
There's guys
It's
out
just, and this isn't even. This is just their names and how we know they played. If you were to go based on athleticism,
Oh, absolutely.
height, weight, speed, it's just
Well,
it's crazy how far it's gone.
and although we as some of us as homers may be projecting into the future, but if you're looking at it realistically, you're saying how good these guys are going to be entry level at the start of this season. Imagine mid-season form and beyond how good they're going to be when the system's really flowing.
Yeah, and the true
compared
just-
to that.
the true just projected starters. There's really not even. Of course, they're going to have growth, but they're already just far past.
No, but the
I don't know
growth
that
you'll have from
anyone-
here is
I don't know
something we
that
never
anyone
had
of the
before.
2022 team
No,
could start today.
not only could they not
maybe,
start,
Maybe Redmond, because when he played well, he played well,
Just always hurt.
Took off.
but his motor
Took
motor
off
wasn't
a
there.
lot of plays.
yeah, but it's more than a
That's it.
sum of the parts. It's the collective whole that works as a unit that has synergistic capabilities that with the chemistry rises above what that other team could ever have possibly put on the field. You've got guys that can get out. I mean, they will know where the other guy is and be able to trust their teammate in a way that 22 class couldn't begin to do.
Yeah,
They were all individuals.
They're a
on
part of the
islands.
system. They're not students of the system.
That's right.
So, I think that's
That's remarkable.
I do think I think it's very indicative as well. I mean, I think just seeing Danny and Billy come back, we've talked extensively about it, but I think it's true believers of what is being done, especially on that side of the ball, in terms of just this is how we're going to run things, and it's going to be nice hopefully seeing things in year 3 smooth themselves out, because we got to the middle of last season and stuff started kind of breaking down a little bit, right? When we started playing different types of teams, we couldn't really. There was just not the mesh that we would
injuries.
have expected.
Injuries
as well.
Injuries played a role that they won't with the depth like
Yeah,
that.
and we'll have, and it's not just freshman depth; it's upperclassmen depth.
Upperclassmen
It's
experience.
people who have been there and should know the assignments. So avoiding injuries is going to be key. But all in all, like I think again, watching some of the SEC Media Day stuff yesterday, this defense is very under the radar. Like there's not. Everyone knows Danny and Billy returning.
Right.
That's all the credit they're really giving them.
Right.
There's not a lot more outside of that. So
it's very surprising too.
yeah,
What was the poll final?
So let me pull it up. So the last week question about the D line.
No, this week's question about where will the SEC?
Oh, this was the D-line. Yeah, last week was quarterback. Yeah. Let me pull that up and see.
That was where will our defense rank in the minds of SEC?
Yeah,
or
defense. Yeah, defensive line, I believe it was.
Was it just defensive line?
I think it was just D-line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my question was, by season's end, where will OU's defensive line rank compared to all SEC defensive lines in the minds of average SEC fans? Nobody said first. 47% said 2 through 3. 40% said 4 through 7. 13% said 8+. I don't understand how you say 8+ on that deal. I don't see how we're in the back half of the SEC.
I did 4 through 7.
I did
as
too.
well.
I did 2 through 3.
With the thought of being 4th or 5th.
I think we're gonna be. I think we're gonna be 2 through 3. I was optimistic.
There's two players that can shape the entire defensive line for sure, and that is R. Mason Thomas and PJ. If
Who are unproven.
if those two guys, if R. Mason can stay
You
healthy,
already know what Dominic Williams is. Is that what you're saying?
yeah. And Terry is what he
You know
is.
what
He's a
Downs
320-pound guy to just take up space in the middle.
Yeah, he's going to eat
You know what
space.
Ethan Downs is? He's a solid player. He's going to get.
He's gonna be in the right spot.
110% every time.
Yeah.
He's just got to start
If you
getting
can
the
get
court.
R. Mason Thomas healthy, and if PJ can start being the dude that he is athletically gifted to be, and supposedly Brent said he's over 260
I mean, he
now.
was a true freshman last year.
Yeah, but you just expect more from five-star kids. It's just part of being a five-star kid. But if he can just get that second season underneath his belt and get that ramped up, I mean, it is a game changer.
Well,
Absolute game changer.
Well, Jayesh, what do you think when it comes to defensive line?
Not so much defensive line, but I didn't know there's going to be some rule changes about Venables being able to communicate with
Probably
Stutzman.
Yeah, got to be
and,
Stutzman.
And it's that time of year, so you're reading it's media days, listening to other things, and
Great podcast like ours.
Yeah, exactly. And this guy said that's going to be a game changer. That Venables is going to be able to talk to him till about 15 seconds. I don't know the details, but
If he uses it right,
yeah.
that is.
So
Zach
people,
Allen
the way that will benefit the defensive line is people will be lined up right and all of that. And he always had that smart, cerebral linebacker at Clemson. You know, that you can see him every year.
Every year.
He had that dude. So they were just saying that, and they started mocking this guy because he was like hyping up Stutzman to be like the Heisman Trophy winner. Like that's how good he's going to be because he's going to be able to communicate with his coach. So that's just something I didn't know. I liked. I don't know who said it, but the fact that guys who could have gone to the draft are coming back says a lot.
Yeah.
You know, because you wouldn't come back to, you know.
Yeah, if you had an
Something you
opportunity to
didn't
make
believe in.
money,
Exactly.
you'd take the money and run.
Yeah,
they're not
so-
doing that.
And let's be real, they can only get better, right? As far as
Yeah.
Well, and that's again, like they were talking to Billy I watched one of his press conference clips, and I know people will roll their eyes, and Lucas, you as well probably, but it just speaks to the mentality that I think is within the locker room, and asked why he came back, what's some of the reasoning, and etc. And he said he came back to win championships, whether it's being the SEC championship, whether it's being in the college football playoff, or ultimately the national championship, should everything go the way that we hope and pray it will. To say that after coming off of the 2 years that he had to experience and the amazing year he had last year, where he could probably have gone in the top few rounds of the draft, it says a lot of where kind of everyone, Steve, kind of back to what you were originally alluding to, around just the mental state of the team and where they're at holistically. And you can take that with a grain of salt. At the end of the day, you've got to prove it on the gridiron, right? You've got to go play the game. We can all talk about going and winning and wanting to win, but to see where we were in the late Riley era and where that first season of Venables was and where we were as a fan base, to going 10-3 last year, underperforming 10-3 last year, and moving into this power conference, I don't know. Things could be a lot worse. Sure.
Absolutely.
I don't think you would have this ensemble of defensive talent if the move to the SEC had happened.
Oh, right.
But if you had this current defensive roster and we were still in the Big 12 this year,
Oh, my
we
God.
were penciled in, guaranteed to the playoffs.
Yep.
Literally guaranteed to the playoffs.
Yep. Yeah. With just an above-average offense. It wouldn't take a phenomenal offense, just an above-average offense in this defense. Absolutely. So,
No.
while the defensive line and the defense seems to be under the radar, and I think you're right on that, Jay, they are at least respected. The big question mark a lot of fans have, and we've raised these concerns, is offensive line. Bring me some optimism. Tell me about the offensive line. What's your view on it? What are you reading out there?
I've been pretty harsh on Beanbo because, as we've all said here many times, it takes a little too long for him to find his 5 and for it to gel sometimes. And he seems to, for whatever reason, which honestly doesn't make much sense, strike out on high-profile national targets.
Struck out another one last week.
Yeah. And so I don't really understand the disconnect there because you can't use... You can talk to all the coaches in the pros. You can talk to the scouts. They all absolutely love him, think he's great, think he's the best.
The former players that are NFL starters.
Yeah.
Not
And-
just starters, like all-stars.
Yeah, and just how many people he gets drafted
Yeah.
that weren't elite recruits
Yeah.
coming in. So the disconnect there is strange. All I can think of is kids just don't want to be coached that hard. I don't know. That's all I can think of. He's just an old school, hard-nosed offensive line coach. And maybe he only needs to go after kids that can handle that. That's just my opinion. I don't know.
Okay.
But besides that, the line is new. And I think when the common fan hears the word new, they automatically think young and
Green.
inexperienced.
Yeah.
And the only thing that this, projected offensive line is they don't have that cohesiveness
Yeah.
yet.
The history together.
Yeah, and it is important. That's not to downplay that part of it at all, but they're not an inexperienced offensive line. You have potentially your right tackle with 25 plus starts in the Big Ten. Your right guard has 25 starts for North Texas and is the most athletic offensive lineman we have. Your center was a top 4 ranked center in the entire country last year with like 32 starts. Probably your left guard is a guy that started 5 or 6 games for the Joe Moore award-winning line from Washington last year. And then your left tackle is Sexton, who might be the most overall talented offensive lineman we have. So, I mean, they're new. They need to learn to work together and gel, but they're not inexperienced. And they're all used to playing college ball. It's not a bunch of young guys that all of a sudden are going to run into SEC players and just not know how to handle it or know what this power looks like or anything like that. So to me, it's optimistic. Still, I still worry about it.
Optimistic,
It's still
but
a concern,
unproven, right?
for sure.
And I think that's the thing. What you said off the top is we don't have the 5 games to get the gel. We've got 3. I mean, we literally have 3 games to say this is what we're
And
going
not
to do.
3 cupcakes.
Yeah,
I mean,
No, I mean Houston and Tulane are not going to be pushing.
Right.
No. So, but if you don't have it figured out by the time Tennessee rolls in, who's going to be equally as hyped to go on the road against Oklahoma, their first season in the SEC,
And their head coach.
and Josh Heupel coming back.
And they've got like a first-round defensive end.
If you don't,
Top 10 pick.
yeah, and if you don't have it figured out until the mid-season mark, like we usually do, you're going to be 3-3 after Texas.
Right.
And I mean, legitimately, and that's when the alarms start really going off. Especially if you go and lose. Again, that's worst case scenario. Losing 3 straight after hopefully winning the first 3.
Right.
So I don't know. It's just I don't want to see that be the case this year. It can't be. Like I really don't think it can be. Or we're going to. It's going to be pretty detrimental.
Well, you're going to probably see a change in leadership, a change in coach with Beadenbow. I think he's a great coach, and I have a lot of faith. And when you talk about the guys in the starts and the talent they've got, the raw talent, I take a lot of optimism from that. Jayesh, what do you think? Optimistic, pessimistic? What's your feel?
Trust in Beadenbow, I mean, yes, may not have as much time to gel. You have to split that Tennessee Auburn. You got to go 1-1, or it can get ugly real quick.
Yeah, yep.
But he's the best O-line coach in the country. So just you got to put your trust
Joe
in him.
Moore Award winner this year, Lucas. What do you say?
No chance to win the Joe Moore Award this year. I mean, it's something we talked about ever since we started this podcast about why is it that we don't have an offensive line figured out until Texas. Hopefully, like Jay said, you've got a bunch of guys that do have valuable experience, even though they haven't played together in tandem. But hopefully, even if we've got a huge lead against Temple, I still want to see those same 5 guys come out midway through the third quarter, and they're still out there playing together,
working it
to get the experience of each other, lining up next to each other. You don't want to see at halftime, if it's 42-0, you bring a whole new set of 5 guys in, or leave 1 or 2 out there and just see what they do with these other guys.
That's what we're going to do, though.
That's probably what will happen. But like you said, Tulane's not going to be pushed over. Houston probably won't be a pushover, so you may be playing full games with those guys.
I mean, what's funny is, and again, I don't disagree with anything you just said. I think it's pretty accurate. But playing a little devil's advocate here, you look at our last Joe Moore award-winning group in 2018, what looked like it would be kind of a hodgepodge group of dudes that ended up just working. So I do think that season it took a minute for them. I mean, they had Kyler Murray as well throwing the ball, which was a cheat code in and of itself.
And being able to escape any situation.
Being able to scramble and do whatever he wanted,
right,
inside and outside of the pocket, was a massive help. And you can't expect anything like that from Jackson Arnold outside of some big plays that he has the ability to make. But that's where my optimism lies, is, to Jayesh's point, it is Bill Beadenbow. He has proven talent. We just mentioned it. The proven talent that he has in the NFL, the product that he has produced, seemingly year in and year out at some level on that offensive line to get production.
I would say, and there's a little bit of, this isn't as a slam dunk maybe as I'd like it to be, but his weakest year was under our weakest offensive coordinator that we've had in a long time.
Well, and that's what we discussed last year, right? Is how much of Bill Beadenbow not looking good was on Jeff Lebby.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think we all agreed Bill Beadenbow had quite a bit more say with both Bob Stoops and with Lincoln Riley.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like, we heard about Bill Beadenbow and Lebby, or Bill Beadenbow having issues in the coaching room last season because of scheming, etc. Same thing with DeMarco Murray.
Right.
So you got to hope and the relationship between Beadenbow and Luttrell is quite good from what we understand. So,
well, their brother.
Well, they're family. So
exactly.
they better.
It's not always
You
good.
would think it's pretty good.
Well, I also hope when you have a new line, but they're not experienced players, you've got to think that people that have played 25 plus games can figure that out pretty darn quick.
Right.
It's a difficult position, but it's not that difficult.
Yeah, that was something
you should understand.
We talked about at dinner a little bit, and it sounded like from the other end of the table that Lucas was not as enamored with the starts. The fact that this group comes with a big history of starts, more starts than the Texas offensive line, more starts than quite a few of the others, and by a margin.
And Texas is picked to go,
I think
the over-under's 10.5?
Right.
I think for us it's the most starts in like 4 seasons or something dumb like that.
But you're not so
I wasn't
enamored.
enamored because you got guys that were from lower schools in crappier conferences. Yeah, I started in North Texas for 25 games, but how many true big games did that guy play in? 2 over 25? We're talking the level of competition he's facing in those 25 games won't compare to even the Auburns or the South Carolinas of this year's schedule.
Here's where I think you're right, but you're also not right, or Jay's right, and that is, you're right. And that actually goes back to also talent. Like if this guy, unless he was just a true diamond in the rough, he's not your all-American prototypical 5-star guy, right? But we talked about and looked back at different teams that were just of age, like that. What was the COVID year, or after the COVID years, the 2021 Oklahoma State team that was, all of them were an average age of like 37, as if they were Mormons from BYU.
Bunch of
And they weren't. We're not talking about all-stars. We're not talking about 5-star guys. And yet, being a grown man mattered. Being an experienced player mattered. They brought a lot to the table. So I think you're right, but I also have some hope that just being old, like you say, Jay, and just having that experience is going to translate into some capabilities.
Well, I think the only one that you could worry about is who you mentioned, because the SMU center, he played against Dominic Williams against TCU, and he played in other big games, and he rated out as a top 4 center in the country. So even if he is playing against some people that aren't that good, he did play against good people. So no matter what, his average couldn't have been that high if he played poor against the few really good teams he played against. And then your right tackle is someone from Michigan State, most likely. Your left guard is someone from Washington. And then Sexton, who all he's known is playing here at OU. So the North Texas kid is the only one that you might say 10 games out of the year he didn't face someone that was great. But he's also, according to Beanbo and them, just the most physically daunting and athletic lineman that we have.
Well,
so I don't know what you could take a whole different route there and say, well, why is the North Texas offensive
My
line
biggest
better?
optimism is when Jeff Lebby came in, he didn't want to collaborate with Beanbo on scheme at all. He said, this is what worked for me at Ole Miss. I learned the Baylor system. We're not going to do what you've been doing here under Lincoln as far as offensive line scheming. This is what we're going to do. And Beanbo had to adapt to what Lebby wanted to do, even though it's nothing he had ever done in general. But now you've got Luttrell coming in, who obviously, like I said, he's brother-in-law with Beanbo, and I think he would be more open to collaborating with all of them. DeMarco, Beanbo, Seth Luttrell, Joe John. They're all, I feel like they're more together because we all think Lebby was standoffish in general with the media.
Right.
And just
had to be
in general. And
in
he
general.
just didn't, he wasn't a fit.
Uh-uh.
I don't care if he played at OU as a, came here as a freshman and then got hurt and blah, blah, blah. I don't care about any of that. I don't think he was a fit here. I'm pretty sure Luttrell is. I know Joe John is.
Mm-hmm.
So if those guys are in a room together and they're on a whiteboard scheming and Beatonbow says, for the previous,
Pull the guard.
the previous
Pull the guard.
7 years I was here, we ran this scheme and we were the best offense in the country 5 of those 7 years. We need to look at doing this. Luttrell's going to come in and be like, I agree. Let's start from there and we'll build around that.
I think
and
that's a great point.
That's where my optimism would come from. Even if the offensive line talent isn't there, you can scheme around lower talent and still achieve results.
I totally agree. I think that plays into 2 things that are so key in this position group. So one is, and I don't know how this isn't just a giant red flag. It was a red flag for us that Jeff Lebby wasn't on a coordinated page with everybody else. How as a unit can you not all be on the same page? If one thing that Lincoln Riley definitely did, he had 11 players, everybody on the same page.
But it's so like polar though. Lincoln Riley only cared about that one group.
Oh,
being
well,
on
yeah,
the same
absolutely,
page.
absolutely.
And then
The
Venables
defense
hasn't
was-
had an opportunity to be that CEO that everyone's
And
talking
that's
about.
needed, and that's
Right.
definitely needed.
Yep.
But I look at offense and offensive line as, truthfully, you can have, now, talent goes a long way, but if you've got 5 guys on the same page who know each other without looking, and they know where that guy's going to be and how they're going to react, that goes such a long way to figure it out and being a very effective unit. And if you've got then a coaching staff from every position group to the coordinator who knows how to use that, regardless of this is a scheme that worked before, the real key to me is this is something I know how to do. Don't make me do something I don't know how to do. yeah, maybe this other offensive scheme works great. It doesn't work for me. I don't know how to coach it. We need guys who all can coach together. If they can coach together and figure that out, and if you can get those 5 guys on the offensive line to work as a true unit, that's a very, very powerful offensive team.
And I think that maybe rounded it off a little bit. I mean, it'll be interesting out of that group. We've had a leader at that group for a while, whether it's been, that whole group, that Ben Powers, that Joe Moore award-winning group. I think we're all leaders in that room. But Creed Humphrey, as much as we talked crap about him, I think Andrew Rame tried to step into that role and had a role in stepping into that role. Sorry, we're being redundant, but I will be interested just with the newness of this group, who kind of rears their head as, because you need that.
You need that. You
need
that
for
leadership.
the cohesion.
Yeah,
right?
you need that guy who's going to be the quarterback of the offensive line.
It sounds like
I think Sexton's that guy.
Sexton definitely could be because he's been here in the center, the new center.
The new center?
Yeah.
Not
think
Troy
he's-
Everett.
Well, which is he's ahead of schedule.
He
Would
is.
just be another.
But that's a
depth
position
piece.
battle at that
Yeah.
point, though. I mean,
But he can also play guard.
Troy Everett looked small last year in the Big 12.
Yep.
So we're going to be facing guys that are 25% bigger than all of those guys.
And
So-
you've got a couple of guys. Is it Hickman or Hickson? I can't remember the center.
I think it's Hickman, but don't
I think
hold
it's
me to
Hickman.
that.
I think it's Hickman.
I'm so bad at names.
But this is a kid who probably would have got drafted in the later rounds or late rounds last year, and he knows that this is his chance.
Mhm.
It's kind of like Rouse from Stanford last year.
Mhm.
He would not have gotten drafted coming out of Stanford. He picked Bill Bedenbaugh because it's Bedenbaugh, and he got his chance. And, he got drafted in the NFL. Now he's going to try and see what he can do for Minnesota. He's got the exact same chance here at center and it sounds like he's taking leadership. He's taking most of the people underneath his wing. He's a 3-year starter. He's coming to OU. He's going to be under center for a high-profile team going to SEC. So I'm guessing that he is 120% locked in because this is his career year.
This is his moment.
This is his time.
Well, like Dominic Williams on the defensive line.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, he didn't
I heard
come here just to.
Danny was talking today about how vocal he has been since he's gotten here, even though he didn't know any of these guys.
He's going to be such a difference
And he
maker. I
showed
think.
up and he's taken
Yeah.
a leadership role.
And for him to step into that role where he had so many other options to go to in the transfer portal,
he could have gone anywhere.
could have gone anywhere.
Yeah.
And lands here, I just think such an integral part of your defense going into the SEC, and then to have that caliber of player is going to be magnificent
And it's
to see.
And his Terry's the same way.
Yep.
This is Terry's year to show what he can do and get his draft stock as high as it can be. I couldn't tell you when's the last time we had 2 320-pound defensive tackles.
Oh.
I'm not even
2000.
Mid 2000s.
Yeah, 2000. Say like 2010, 2011-ish.
yeah, maybe.
Lynn Magruder and someone else. that team that beat
good
Colorado
blast in the
in
past
Big
there.
12
I mean, it's going to be
championship.
wild to just not watch the center of your defense get moved.
Yeah,
They're not getting moved.
absolutely.
It might be a stalemate.
Yeah,
You're going to run up against great offensive linemen. But at worst, it's a push.
it's right.
You're not getting blown
Absolutely.
off the football.
Well, and that's where that position opens up the rest of the field. That opens up a guy like Stutzman to make a Butkus run because he's going to have lots of tackles for loss. You're going to have guys that have interceptions that shouldn't happen because you've got a guy getting double teamed up the middle and his name doesn't get called and only a true football fan and really expert sees it. The rest of them see the highlight plays of what's going on in the periphery. He's the guy in the trenches who's making it all happen because he's being disruptive and he's taking up that offensive line.
I'll see you in the end zone, that's for sure.
Yeah, you'll definitely be able to see that from the end zone. You'll see that for sure. We'll let you know how the rest of the game goes. Well, I want to transition a little bit, and I want to start with a question for Jayesh. Jay, are you a fisherman? Do you like to fish?
A little bit, yes.
I tell you what, something that would really help your game is if you would tune into a YouTube channel that we all use to help us out, and that's Fluke Luke Fishing. Fluke Luke brings you feel-good fishing content and honest reviews of equipment and tackle. If you want to understand the nuances of how to get a good fish, what equipment to use, what to avoid, a lot of this is about what to avoid. And he'll tell you the good and the bad. He'll give you good, honest reviews on all of that. Go watch it, like it, subscribe. That's Fluke Luke Fishing. So I want to really zoom in on who you are. And the first question that comes to mind is, are you a homer or are you a realist?
I used to be a homer, but now I'm a realist.
Oh. Define that. What does that mean to you?
I just was disappointed on Saturday too many times, losing games we weren't supposed to.
And so now, are you now in a world where you got to prove it to you before you're going to believe it? You're not going to come in with the preconceived notion that we're going to win it for sure?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
He's already talking about going 1-1 in Tennessee Auburn.
I know. That's true.
That should be 2-0.
When he said that, I thought, oh, my God, we got a real realist on our hands.
Is there anything that would turn you back into a homer?
I mean, stop losing games as double-digit favorites,
favorites, yeah.
Stop Clemson. That's what...
Start covering the spread?
Yeah. I experienced some of the worst OU losses, we became the Clemson, so that's when that switch happened.
See, this is where I waffle with the whole where I stand, because we have the team almost every year to win every game we play.
In the Big 12, we had the team every
now,
year to win every game we play.
Maybe from now on, that's not the case.
Right.
And maybe we all become more of a realist. But even this year, there is not a game on the schedule where we are just out-talented. There's two teams that might have a little bit more talent, but for the most part, we are more talented than every team we're going to play. I don't care who they are.
And better coached. And
we can win every game. I mean, I can convince myself that we can win every game.
Hell yeah, 12-0 for Jay.
That's right.
The only realist part is that's not going to happen in this game.
I think
and it's not because of talent or because of anything else. It's just not going to happen.
Well, in college football today, that just doesn't generally happen anyway.
It's just not going to happen. So,
I think the thing you can't measure, and I think a good analogy would be the AFC North in the NFL, where it's a grind. So
cannibalistic.
Playing a good opponent when you're beat up, which we're going to experience in September, right? Tennessee, Auburn. So you can't. That's where you're not going to be able to measure. Just they talk about the grind of the SEC. We'll get there. There's no doubt. But in your first season, everything's new. Like traveling, new airports, new hotels, all that. Traveling in the Big 12 is
the routine.
Yeah. So dealing with that on top of
going to win
the SEC grind.
Yeah, the lack of familiarity that could really play a toll.
Which is where the coach speak of competitive depth, right? Because from here on forward, there's 5 teams, even in the SEC, that are going to be ahead of everyone else every single year. And it's because of that depth that you're talking about. So adding OU and Texas puts even more of a grind into the season. We just happen to be one of the teams that is going to be top 5 in talent every single year.
Well, and now it's...
OU, Texas, Bama, Georgia, LSU. For the consistent part, that's the 5.
Yeah.
That are going to be more talented than everybody else. And so any given year, you're going to have 2 out of those 5 teams that are just a notch ahead of everyone else that has a true third-string linebacker that can come in and just you haven't missed a beat, right?
And to your point, Jayesh, is kind of with that NFL feel in forcing us towards more of a homeristic realism.
There you
go. You're going to lose. Okay.
You're going to lose games.
That's not a thing.
And
homeristic realism.
Hey,
don't
depends on how many you lose.
Don't be developing new terms.
So, but it'll be interesting to see how these conversations go. Obviously, the goal is to go and win an SEC championship, right?
Right.
That becomes less important with the 12-team playoff.
Yeah.
The goal is
To get
make
to
the
the playoffs.
playoffs.
Yeah.
Win games that you have to win. Win those South Carolinas, the Kentuckys, the
The
Vanderbilts.
games you should win.
The games you should win. Go split games that are toss-ups and make the playoff. So, whereas I'm going on I might slip my wrist after losing to OSU and Bedlam because it's going to cost me a chance in the playoff. Now I just lost to LSU. It's our second or third loss of the season. We still got a good look in because we beat Alabama, we beat Texas, etc. Right? So it's going to definitely force me to really look at how I evaluate where we're at as a team during the season. But again, you got to go beat the teams that you need to beat, right? I mean, there's games still on the schedule, whether it's the SEC or not, that you got to go win with that talent that you mentioned, Jay, with that as that top 5 tier of talent. Anybody below that, anybody below the bottom 6 or 7, you got to go win those games. I mean, and Jayesh, to your point, we've been disappointed in the Big 12 because we're the top 1-2 talent, interchangeable with Texas every year
by a mile.
by
Really? Yeah.
leaps and bounds, and we're losing to K-State. We're losing to Baylor.
Kansas.
K-State's honestly the one that just gets me in the ribs every time because they do it a lot, it seems like. So
Texas Tech.
And it's just games you can't lose as a team that wants
Here's
to
the fact
compete
that
for
we
a
really
title.
haven't talked a lot about is stadium sizes and loud crowds. Because in the
game time.
in the Big 12, we had Kansas State would have a good crowd when they're playing really well.
That crowd.
You know, obviously Texas is half and half, so even though both sides are super loud, you got one being quiet during certain times and vice versa. But then, I mean, Baylor was never a tough crowd. Texas Tech, not really ever.
None
a
of them
good
were that
crowd.
big.
Right.
I mean, none of them
Baylor
were
was a
that
tough crowd in
loud.
2019 when we came back.
But really, outside of a good Kansas State team going in, we went to a couple of those games and they were loud. But really,
They were obnoxious.
Iowa State would have every now and then a good run of a loud crowd. But now you're going
Matt
to
Campbell was the loudest one of that.
Tennessee, Ole Miss, Bama, Georgia, even as down as Florida in, their crowds are going to be crazy.
LSU's the best crowd in the nation.
Well,
insane.
it doesn't matter as much as the fact they're giant.
Yeah.
They're really
The
big
stadium
stadiums.
capacity, when you're going to Stillwater and there's 45,000 people there, now you're going to a South Carolina where there's 65 or 70 or whatever.
It's
they are.
going to be
ain't
Neyland
that.
Stadium 3 or 4 times a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to factor in positively or negatively how much it helps the team that all the games are bigger.
Yeah.
Like, because there's a very good chance, as you're alluding to, we've slept walk and not been that excited for games. Like when you know you're significantly better than somebody else and it's an 11 o'clock game and you're in Kansas, it's just there's a human nature to just, it's not that big a deal. If we play pretty good, we're going to win,
Hard to motivate.
But now, having the new to the league, you're going to get everyone's shot. You also don't want to be embarrassed. You don't want to embarrass your fans, yourself, your coaches, everybody. You're going to have to get up and bring it every week. And I think they're capable of doing that early on. I think a few years down the road, I think an at Auburn is a super trap game. Like right now, it's lining up to be a little bit of a trap game.
Or an at South Carolina.
Yeah, right.
I mean, anything like
but
that.
Kentucky.
but right now,
Yeah.
I think it's height. Everything's so heightened.
No trap games
There's
because
no
we're
trap
going to be
Because
on
no
top
trap.
of it,
honestly, we
yeah.
may be the trap.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
No,
I think
a good
that's
point.
how a lot of people view us right
That's a
now.
good point.
Oklahoma's the trap. But, I mean, also, something else I saw, and I know we're trying to get to the question, sorry, but around Brent Venables and some of his comments is after the Texas game last year, didn't feel like he nor the team really understood how to handle that success to carry it forward.
Mm-hmm.
And said he had a conversation with Nick Saban after and was talking to him about it. And that's what Nick Saban said, is when you're successful in the SEC, you're going and beating these big teams. Being able to sustain that on a consistent level is the hardest thing to do. Whether it's...
Which is what we did in our league
Right.
It's not comparable to what.
But
Bama
until we
did.
did, but until we did.
But emotionally, though, it was the same. It was the same problem for us.
Yeah, same problem
Different
on a lesser scale.
lesser scale, but the same problem.
I mean, Auburn should have beat Bama.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
and Auburn was not a good
good.
team.
they lost the week before to New Mexico State.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the best thing I heard kind of about this getting up for games, that was a great point you brought up, Jay. In consistency, a long time ago, I heard that the only thing consistent about 18 to 21-year-olds is that they're inconsistent. And hearing what you talked about not getting up, because that's why we, like, you listen to the local radio, like how hard it is to get up 12 games a year. Why do you lose a game as a double-digit favorite? Well, that's not going to happen because OU's players are going to be hyped going into every game. But 2 years from now, they may not be. So I didn't think about it that angle. And
Yeah,
it's
that's
a
an
really
interesting.
good,
it's an
good
interesting
angle,
lens.
really.
Are we going to be double-digit favorites in any game in the conference this year? I don't know that we will.
No, I think we're a sleeper unless
South
things
Carolina
break
is
the
like
way they do.
2-5 when they come in here. Well,
Yeah, that
like,
could happen.
They could be
Yeah.
3-6 or something.
Yeah.
Whatever time that
Right.
that game's played.
Yeah, they could have a
Truth-
losing record.
truth
That could be the
serum-wise-
only one, really.
Truth serum.
Truth serum. I would trade for Texas' schedule,
Oh, absolutely.
but I would not.
easily.
But I would
I need
not.
truth serum to say that.
But I would not trade the position that they're in.
No,
in terms
exactly.
of expectations, everything.
Yes,
No.
10.5 versus
Texas
7.5.
is acting like they're this big
Absolutely.
dog, and everyone's gonna be like,
Oh, he's a hell
coming
of a
out
job in
for
front
us
of him.
to gun for us. This
Yeah.
whole other thing, and we're just kind of piddly pucking over it.
Oh,
we haven't had to go through that.
It's
in
classic
25
setup
years.
for Sark.
But
That
it-
he's going to have the toughest job in the world of keeping those guys on the same.
These kids literally weren't born the last time OU wasn't, the team to play
right.
in the next upcoming game. And we're just kind of being brushed over a little bit. Yeah, Sark's in a much worse spot in those regards than Venables is. Now, our schedule's definitely tougher than Texas's, but
Well, thinking about tough games, that kind of alludes to the next question, which I'd like to ask Jayesh. What is your favorite OU football memory or memories? Big games, cool games, awesome.
I would say OU at Alabama was at 2003 when
Yeah.
was that Mike Shula?
No, that would have been Francione, wasn't it? Oh, at Alabama.
At Alabama,
yes,
yeah.
that was Shula. Yes, correct.
And we drove everything that happened on the drive there. I got a speeding ticket on the state line. Or was it Salisaw? That's where I got the
You
speeding.
didn't get very far before you got a speeding ticket.
But there were three of us. Two of us were still in school, and then OU alum joined us. And then our plan was to stay in Memphis that night, which we did. And then we went to Tunica and won a little bit of the speeding ticket back on roulette. But when we got there, we were ranked number one, and Bama might have been on the outskirts, 25, 26.
Yeah,
when game
probably
day was
over
there.
20,
We were
yeah.
staying in Birmingham, but they were so excited to be hosting a number one ranked team. And it was Friday night, and experienced something we never had, and that was the bars can stay open late as they want. If people are drinking and people are behaving, they're going to serve. And I don't know if that's still the case.
We'll find out next year.
Yes. And I think it varies SEC city to city, but bars open until 3, 4 in the morning, and we had a DD that took us back to Birmingham, and then the next day, go back to Tuscaloosa, and then probably we talk about it all the time. The group of people who went on the trip, probably the best back-to-back play calls in OU history, where you get a fake punt and then a bomb to Brandon Jones.
Yeah.
And it's game over.
Yeah, totally. I mean, a game that was tight, and we just opened it up right there. I was at that game too, and it was it was just magical because, you felt like you felt predetermined. You're the better team. You should be winning. And it's a struggle. And it's a heck of an atmosphere. And we're struggling. And they call that fake punt. And that's back in the days of, when Bob would really be a gunslinger and he'd do that stuff. And it still was unexpected.
Big game Bob.
Big game Bob. And he threw it to, what was his name? Michael Thompson, was
Yes.
it? Who caught it? Yeah. Who
could have ran for a touchdown,
If
but he had gotten in a car accident, I think.
No, that was afterwards. The
Okay,
car
yeah.
accident. Yeah,
But he was
no,
wide open.
He barely caught.
Yeah.
And then he gets it, and obviously gets the first down, and then Big Game Bob, he doesn't waste any time. The very next play is the bomb, and it is just like the crowd atmosphere just turned. It just absolutely turned in our favor.
What a great play call, Coach Stoops and probably Chuck Long at that time.
Yeah, 2003. Yeah,
And
that would
what
be.
a great deep ball thrower.
There's a
Jason
great
White.
picture from that game if y'all have never seen it with Tommy Harris absolutely swallowing Brody Croyle.
Oh, yes.
He busted line and he's got his arms way out. He looks like a bear just
Yeah.
attacking.
Yeah.
And Croyle's like crouched down like he's about to get swallowed. And that still shot is fantastic.
That's a cool memory. That's a unique game. I mean, we've all talked about a bunch of games we've been to and memories, and that's
It's an
one that
awesome
doesn't
one.
get brought up a lot.
I think it was everything, just the drive out there
Yeah.
and what, staying in Memphis and, we had a late night, but when we were younger and, when you're driving, it's just the adrenaline that's fueling you. There's no way I would drive from Memphis to Birmingham on 3 hours of sleep now, but then it didn't, you don't think twice.
Was necessary.
Well, we mentioned some players that obviously Tommy Harris, one of the greats. What is your favorite? Who is your favorite all-time player at OU? If you can pick one, maybe it's a couple.
So at the beginning we talked about like how I got into football and all that. So been through Gibbs and Blake and Snellenberger. So in that era, Jamal Parker, incredible to watch.
Yeah,
What he could have been had he had
what a missed opportunity with that talent.
And then, I guess in whatever the Coach Stoops era, DeMarco Murray, Malcolm Kelly, and CeeDee Lamb. On the defensive side, Ronell Lewis, and a lot of people probably won't even remember him.
Yeah.
But small town, Oklahoma, but laid the wood. It's
a baller. Yeah.
I think he played 8-man football.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's recruiting and developing talent, and
That's a great point.
knew how to hit people in the mouth.
Yep.
Had a lot of dog in him. So
Yeah, absolutely would.
That's a good pick.
Well, thinking about, you mentioned some tough times, and there's different versions of tough times. What game outcome would you most want to change if you could?
this is easy for me. I think if you're just basing this starting from Coach Stoops, most fans will tell you 3 games, either OU LSU, probably Florida OU, or OU Georgia. It's OU Georgia for me because I think, I know we win that game. In Coach Saban, Bill Belichick, if you give them 4 weeks to prepare, they're going to beat you. 1 week, we would have been in Alabama. I was at that game. We were booking flights to Atlanta. That LSU
During the game?
yeah,
During the Rose Bowl?
Oh, yeah, me and
Steve and I had
The
flights
truth
pulled up.
comes out.
Yeah.
Steve and I had flights pulled up right there.
You
In
lost
the
the
the talent on that team: Mark Andrews, CeeDee Lamb, Hollywood Brown,
Rodney Anderson.
yeah.
and Baker Mayfield.
Oh, yeah, by the way.
Yeah.
I think the LSU
a pretty good backup.
That didn't hurt as much. I mean, we were playing in their backyard. Jason White was hurt, and even with the Florida, if DeMarco Murray's playing that game, we probably beat him.
We win the
So
Yeah.
easily that Georgia. That was a tough pill to swallow.
The USC game could be up there too,
Yeah,
because if you just turn the result, we don't get embarrassed,
Right.
and that's the game. That's a national championship game. So
Right.
the Georgia game, we win. We more than likely beat Bama, but those other games,
Would be championships.
you win that game, you are the champion because that's all there. It was LSU, USC, Florida. That's the final game.
Well, in the 3 that you mentioned, I mean, this is a homer take maybe. We're the better team. We're the better team against LSU, against Florida, and against Georgia, and like you say, the better team in the emergent championship game.
I think Georgia, if we win that game, the landscape of what our program is right now is completely different.
See, that's how I feel about Florida, because I think the Florida loss
It
put us into that little dark ages of. I think even Stu felt like, I don't know if I can
do this,
win anymore. Like, I don't know if I can win these games anymore. And recruiting took a hit.
Well, he admitted it. I mean, he admitted in his book. He almost left. I mean, he started looking at other options after that dark period of time where we weren't competing for the level of championships that he wanted to be. So,
at least with the USC game, I was there. A lot of y'all were there too. We got to boo Ashley Simpson at halftime.
That's right.
That was
yes, we
great.
did.
So,
out of 10 games, how many times did we win that one?
I think it's 5-5.
5-5.
Yeah, I mean that was one of those games where it snowballs from the Mark Bradley. I mean,
It
they had
snowballed.
our playbook.
you look
know.
look at the guys we put in the NFL.
Yeah.
There's a lot of NFL talent on our roster too. Jamal Brown.
I tend to agree that it's closer than what people would naively say. Now, I do agree with what Connor's saying, that the accusations that they had our playbook are fairly substantial. I'm not a big conspiracy theory guy, but there's
a lot out.
There's a lot out there about that.
In the first round.
Yeah, and after that,
I thought that's how the game was going to go.
They're calling out our plays. I mean, it's it's pretty obvious.
Dudes are making incredible.
their
our
tight
guys
end-
were
their-
covering.
Oh yeah,
Their tight end was just insane. that
You
game.
play that 10 times over. They don't do that.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the NFL talent we put out ended up producing more, especially. I mean, I'm learning
Absolutely.
the Jamal Brown, the O line, especially.
So White was on that team for USC, right? Lindell White.
Yeah.
And
Reggie Bush.
Reggie Bush.
Matt Leinart.
And after that, it's a fall off.
Yeah, Mike Williams was a buzz, right?
Yeah.
Detroit drafted him.
I mean, really, the only player that turned out great was Reggie Bush, and he didn't.
Well,
he
he
was
was
just he was just
above
Reggie Bush in the
average.
NFL that he was in college.
No.
Right.
If they had
Not
defensive
at all.
players.
Yeah.
They're I can't name them right now, but
Yeah,
they
that
had really
safety
good
was really
defensive
good.
Yeah, they had some defensiveness for
What
sure.
about
They were
the-
good.
They were good. Oh, they were very, very good.
good.
No doubt about it.
Not this isn't a championship game or anything like that, but what about Bradford BYU? If he doesn't get injured, what does that 09 season look like?
a lot different
A lot different.
We beat Texas. I know that.
Yep.
because that defense is
The defense was stacked.
good.
Defense
I
was
mean,
really
there's a
bad.
chance we get
That offense was
11-1
stacked.
there.
We had a
And just like Jay's saying about Florida, even with the Florida loss, if he doesn't get injured in that BYU game, which is the next game, the next season, then maybe that's a trajectory that changes.
Well, you
and
think about
everything's
it.
different.
We beat BYU. We would have beat Miami. I definitely think we beat Nebraska.
Texas, and
And Texas, you could. I think we beat Texas, but let's just say that's the toss-up out of the group.
yeah,
I mean, that's a one-loss team at worst, in my opinion.
right.
Because Nebraska's that game was what, like 10-7,
Right.
something like that.
5 picks or something.
Yeah, and Miami should have beat Miami. There's no reason we should have lost that game, but
That game, the OU at Nebraska, the Gerald McCoy and Dominican, that was
Don
probably,
Soon-
I was
that
there.
was pretty crazy.
And I'm sure all of you have been sat in the visitor section in Lincoln. It's not a
We did a couple years ago.
It's not a
Yeah.
good section.
No, yeah.
It was a couple years ago because they knew they were not good at all.
They were apologizing for
Yeah, they were.
themselves.
Yeah, they're like, we promise we're not this bad. Yeah, you are.
That might have been the most boringest game I've ever
Yeah,
encountered.
Yeah.
Live.
Oh, it's
Awful.
just
it
so
was
dry.
straight trenches.
Yeah,
I'd say
just the whole game.
Cotton Bowl against Arkansas.
Yeah.
That was pretty
Those
rough.
who woke
That
up
was
on
the
New
worst
Year's Day.
10 a.m. game.
Well, one more look back at history. Will you miss Bedlam?
No.
All right. Well, let me. I got a few more that I want to turn to more prediction, but before that, let's talk a little bit about you. You're a world sports traveler. I don't know if I know anyone who's done as much world sports traveling as you have. You've been to the World Cup in Russia. You have run with the Bulls. You've been to the Kentucky Derby.
Belmont.
Belmont.
When
You didn't go to the Derby?
No, it was a Belmont 2008 when Big Brown was the worst.
That's right.
That was running for the Triple Crown.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were going to
Going.
be the jockey in the Kentucky Derby.
Exactly.
They disqualified you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
were 2 pounds over.
I was
the limit.
working for Bob Baffert.
Yeah. Okay.
Racist.
So you've been all around the world watching sports, and probably a lot that I haven't even mentioned. How How does all of that compare to the OU experiences that you've had? Setting aside the fact that you're a big OU fan, is OU on that stage, or is it something that's lesser and we think of it as great just because we love it?
I think it's on that stage. It's more like sports just bringing people together, and OU's definitely on that stage. If that makes sense. Like it's just
From a passion perspective.
yes, yeah, absolutely. It is. The European soccer fans,
soccer,
they're just they're calling their radio station, wanting their manager fired, all of it. But as far as the pageantry and the passion, it's definitely on that stage.
Well, tell us a little bit about your business. Get a plug in for Orange Theory. Tell us what you do. You get people into great shape, right?
I don't. I work with people who
You do it at a high level.
Well, thank you. We get people, into shape, but it's more about just shape can be measured in a lot of different ways,
So even a guy like me could come and get some benefit out of it.
Absolutely. Right. You would love it because of the technology side of it, the data side of it, but, you hear a lot about, like, non-scale victories, right? I feel better, I sleep better. It's not all about just losing weight, and I think a great thing we do is community, and we're willing to meet you wherever you are on your fitness journey, and it's been great,
What is the typical experience for somebody who comes in brand new? What does the program look like?
Well, someone who's anyone who wants to try an Orange Theory fitness class, their first workout is always free because we want them to experience it. And, they come in, they get fitted for their heart rate monitor. And, I know a lot of like commercials or marketing videos you may see, it's always like the person running on the treadmill and all that. That's not the case. We have people who walk, we have people who power walk, we have people who jog, we have people who run. And one of the two big components of our model is our real-time heart rate monitoring system, and that it's backed by science. And I think that some of the coolest things I've seen is when, like, someone who came in and they were just a power walker, and 3 months later they become a jogger. Or they're a jogger, 3 months later, they become a runner. And, people ask, like, well, how am I going to get my heart rate up? I just walk. Well, you go on an incline. So, this could be a podcast on its own.
Sure.
That's why we just tell people to come take the class. And,
That's awesome.
It's
get people in shape. I think it's great. So
and have fun.
And have fun. That's a big element of it, right? Because as we all probably know from our own personal experience and what I've read about exercises, and it's like diet too, you're only going to get success out of something you stick with, right? And so it's got to be fun, and it's got to be something you're going to want to do to stick with it. So it sounds like there's really two elements, and maybe one stronger with a certain group and another with another, and that is part of it is the community aspect and the pushing each other and the sometimes competitive, sometimes supportive, and then the other would be the data-driven. Here's what I did last time. Here's what I'm trying to do this time. Is that a fair depiction of it?
Absolutely. And one last thing, and then we'll go back to the serious business about the community, not just our local community. One great thing we've done at Moore is, and the very first time we did it was when OU played Ohio State. We challenged the studio in Columbus to a calorie challenge.
Right.
And what we did is we picked a day, week of the game, and just how many calories our membership base burns. People who took class versus them. And it was cool because we would send out a halftime update, and we set the rules at the beginning, and the losing studio would have to play the fight song of the other studio the day of the game and take video and all that. And that has been a lot of fun. And that shows people that this is a global brand.
Awesome.
And what's funny, we have the greatest members, like Connor's mom. That's the only reason I agreed to do this. She's an amazing lady and woman. But what we were seeing, anytime we would win the challenge, we would lose the game. But vice versa. That first one we did, we lost the challenge, and then we won the State game, and that was 2017. And then in the national semifinal in December, we challenged the studio in Athens. We beat them.
Oh, no.
And then lost the game.
Oh, no.
And that trend was going on, so
Okay.
our members started saying, don't do challenges anymore, or throw the challenges.
Well, either that or let us know the outcome of the challenge, and so we can make it a real Steel Lock of the Week. So
Absolutely.
that's what we'll do. That's great.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate
Absolutely.
you talking about that. So your location's in Moore.
Yes.
All right. Well, that everybody should go check that out. Let me ask you, we've talked about this on numerous pods, and we will really be talking about this kind of stuff going forward, obviously, when we get into fall camp. But let me get your early, maybe too early picks on some things. Will OU win a national title in football by 2030?
Yes.
I like it. What are your
Really
thoughts?
lost my ass.
Yeah, and it could be
Well-
more than one.
Well, because of the new format, and when you were talking about, yes, you were almost right. The goal is to win the next game, the next week. But coach speak, it's conference. But I was hearing arguments that it's better off not playing in that title game and still getting in the playoff because you get a bye essentially. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Things
it's
to think
going to
about.
be a real interesting.
We're not gonna
thing.
know, yeah.
It'll be a
I think
silver lining.
the prestige starts to deteriorate.
Right.
Or it's
Yeah.
and it's,
Which is always the fear, right? You diminishing the regular season.
Well, and to that point, I was talking, and I won't disclose any details that I shouldn't, but I was talking to a head coach of an SEC program, and he was relating how he had a conversation with the conference commissioner. And the question became, how should we structure this? And the answer from the coach was, well, what do you want? Do you want SEC titles, or do you want the national title? Because if we structure it properly, we will get more teams into the national championship, into the playoffs. But if we don't, we'll have a true SEC champion, but we'll self-eliminate. So we got to be careful. We got to be strategic about who plays whom and how that breaks down, so that we don't self-eliminate. So that is definitely on the minds, at least in the SEC. Greg Stanke and others. So I think it's something that you have to consider. Now, you do have to have a legitimate champion at some measure, and you have to have legitimacy in your league, and you can't exactly predict the future, but it's something that you got to be careful about, because if you have too many teams self-eliminating, then you start to you get into a difficult situation where you're not getting the teams into the playoff that you really deserve to get
and
into.
I guess they've incentivized that to an extent, right?
Right.
The auto bids.
Right.
But
right.
if it turns into something where you've got 4
well,
power conferences or 3 power conferences, and those conference championships translate into buys,
yeah,
it's even more incentive to get there.
Yeah,
but not a home game.
Right, you lose the home game.
Yeah.
You lose a home, but I mean, I guarantee you go ask any coach out
Take
there.
the bye.
You take the bye over the home playoff game.
Yeah.
The one extra home playoff game.
I don't think. I do think we're going to see some diminishing of the championship game, but probably not the season. I'm hoping.
Not this
Yeah.
season.
Not the season.
Not the season. No,
the
I
championship
agree.
game.
No,
Yes.
I agree.
No,
with that,
I
too.
agree with that for sure.
And I think, yeah. I mean, as a conference, your goal should be to get as many as teams. Structure your league to get as many
Teams as you
in
can
the
into
playoffs.
there.
No doubt.
I'm hearing people say 5 teams from the SEC.
It's possible. It's not impossible. It depends on everything else. It's a long shot, but it's definitely possible.
Yep.
So I got some other questions. Lucas, do you have a question? Or
Yeah, it was just a general question. I don't think we've talked about it on previous pod. But what is the first conference title in the SEC that OU wins other than football? Other than softball or gymnastics?
women's basketball.
Women's basketball is that's your guess?
That's a good guess. It could be football. You're saying not softball, not gymnastics.
Other than softball and gymnastics, which we would be
Men or
we would be
women
the favorite.
gymnastics.
Right. As a university, what is the first conference title in the SEC OU wins?
It could be baseball.
Baseball's tough.
Wrestling?
Baseball's
Really
tough.
tough,
We're not in the SEC
we're
in
still in the Big
wrestling.
12.
We're in the Big 12.
I got you caught up. Sorry.
No, it's that's a great
Yeah, but you have a run
point.
years ago for baseball. You
Yeah,
can do it.
yeah, baseball. I mean, we went to the College World
Yeah.
Series.
But you're
2 years
playing.
ago.
You're playing
It's
the
so
Vandies. you're
competitive.
playing the
I
South
understand that,
Carolinas,
but
FCCs,
you just have to win enough to get into the tournament,
and then make a run.
right? And then make a run. So I think baseball could be an educated guess.
Oh, it's a good guess. It's I would say that
I don't think women's basketball stands a chance with the way South Carolina and LSU have built their program.
Oh, yes. No chance.
I mean, that's another thing where you make it to the tournament
yeah,
and you don't end up playing one of those teams.
Right.
You get a
You
lucky,
laying in the championship.
lucky break.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
if
could
you-
be possible.
Yeah, I
But I think that would probably be the two.
think it's neck and neck between. I think it's neck and neck between baseball and football.
Tennis.
You know,
Tennis. Yeah, that's true. Tennis. We're very good in tennis. Golf. We're very good in golf.
very good.
South has some good. Golf.
That's a very interesting
This
question.
question is SEC title. So, if you're talking women's basketball, you do have to beat South Carolina. Or-
No, exactly. Yeah.
And if you're talking baseball, you do have to beat
Tennessee,
Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Florida,
And if you're
Texas,
talking
LSU,
football,
A&M,
Texas,
Tennessee. Yeah.
something like that. And
Right.
if you're
So
and if
we're
you're talking football,
The first SEC title OU wins, not softball, not gymnastics.
Sure, football. I'm down.
Football?
football will be up there. I mean, tennis is up
I
there.
know we got Kentucky.
Men's basketball has. I mean,
Not on the current
not
trajectory.
on the current trajectory that it's on.
It'll have
Porter
to change.
Mosier should have been fired, and I'll say that out loud on the pod. I don't care.
Absolutely.
I'm
Oh, I'm-
all on the Mosier out train.
I am too.
I just thought that was an interesting question, though.
That is a good question.
That is a good question.
Lock it in for football.
All right, so Jayesh, what are your thoughts on the following two topics: coaching staff and direction of the program? We've talked around that a little bit tonight on the pod, but tell me more about your thoughts there.
I think you have to give Coach Venables time, just with the situation he inherited. And,
What's unacceptable this year for you,
I mean,
record wise? What is
You keep
we need
Venables.
to, we need
keep
to
Venables
question
at 5-7.
Yeah, we need
no.
No.
What?
You can say keep, but hot seat.
You keep it hot seat. I mean, I think just looking at the schedule, you should be able to at least go 6-6 and qualify for a bowl. Worst case scenario.
Well, that gets into the next question, so I'll dovetail it right in there. What are your expectations for OU in the SEC this season? Give me your record prediction, your ability to compete, and I like where you're headed with the worst case, best case, like ceiling floor.
I might need you guys to help me tally here as I'm looking through the schedule. So we start out 3-0, correct?
Well,
And
it's
then,
your opinion. You tell
yeah,
us.
Yeah, we do. I already mentioned earlier we will split Tennessee Auburn,
Okay.
and then we got 2 more guaranteed wins: South Carolina and Maine. So where are we at then?
Well, we got one loss, so keep moving.
5-1.
5-1. So we got 6 games left. You have to go, you have to go 3-3 at.
So-
I think that'd be best case.
So you're looking at an 8-4 as your base case.
No,
I
that's
know
the
best.
ceiling.
Yeah,
That's the best we can do is 8-4.
the way breaking it down the way I did,
So
Expectation
I'm gonna push back against that a little bit, because if we're 8-4 as your best case scenario, then that means that your base case must be something south of that, like 7-5, 6-6.
Yeah, because I think 8-4 would those 6. I guess you can call them toss-up games. We
Yeah.
got 3-3.
That you did poorly in, yeah.
Yeah.
So 5-7 that you said is hot seat. So you've got a real narrow channel there for them to operate in.
I mean, can he truly be on the hot seat with the getting an extension? And
Yes, he can.
and has recruited well. The depth has to be developed, which all that's going good. So
There'd be factors into, I mean, let's say 5 and 7 happens. If you go in there and it's half our defense is hurt and Jackson Arnold is hurt and you're scraping by the skin of your teeth just
And
to
people
get
are
in and out of
unexpectedly
games.
good.
Yeah, and other teams have amazing seasons that you don't foresee. Fair enough. I don't even think that's hot seat. I think that's, hey, throw this in the trash bin, regroup, and let's see what we can do next year.
I don't think they would have given him the extension if it was like,
There wasn't confidence.
yeah, like whatever happens this year is fine.
Kind of
So
what we talked about last pod.
So
too.
I haven't really given a it's unfair because I haven't given the base case, worst case. But 10-2 is my prediction, and that's more of the benchmark I'm holding them to. I think we can be 10-2. I think 12-0 is in the cards. I think that, to me, 7-5 gets pretty disappointing to me. Unless, like you're saying, Connor, we have
injury.
some major injuries, teams are unexpectedly good, I'll be really disappointed at 7-5. But maybe I'm just a homer.
I'd be curious to see, and Missouri and A&M are not OU, and Nebraska's not OU. How did Nebraska do their first season in the Big Ten? How did Missouri do their first season in that? And again, they're not
Missouri
us.
made an SEC
Missouri did well. They
championship.
were 2 straight SEC championship
Well,
games.
there you go. So
It
But-
can be done.
Different factors. They weren't playing
Alabama.
schedule.
But Alabama wasn't Alabama.
No, but they had Georgia, Florida.
True.
They were in
Or
Florida.
isn't Alabama.
Yeah.
And they didn't do us favors with the schedule,
they didn't.
So, which I think now is coming.
My best case is 10-2. I think that's our ceiling. Ceiling's 12-0, but I think best case for expectations for me is 10-2. Expectation is 9-3. I think 7-5 is disappointing. 8-4 needs to be the lowest bar that we have set. I mean, if we say we have the talent we have the program built that we have built, regardless of first season or not. If you can't go 8-4, something in that equation that you've laid out for me is not correct.
Steve, I got my answer.
All right.
That's because I'm a sports fan. Whatever record we need to be hosting a playoff game, because I want to be part of that. I want to see.
Okay.
I want to experience a playoff game in Norman the first year of the playoffs.
I think
Like
9-3.
10-2.
I think no. I think 9-3 gets us.
9-3 would
All
get
right.
I
us
think
there.
9-3
Yeah.
gets us there.
Yeah.
So who are the
Especially
3
if-
losses?
Well, especially if it's 9-4, where you lose the championship game, or 10-3.
You're not getting an SEC championship game at 9-3. I don't think.
Most likely not, but it's possible. 10-2, you get in and lose. You're 10-3. That's
Still
I
probably
mean,
in.
back to what you were saying before. That might be the sweet spot. 10-3, you narrowly lose. You're hosting a game. You get I don't know what the revenue is, but I'm assuming you get a lot of the revenue and the hype and the fun. That'd
That'd be nuts.
be not.
I think the 3 losses to your question, Jayesh, is I think I've been tending more towards Tennessee as a loss lately. They scare me. Their quarterback scares me. Their quarterback is crazy. He's fast.
Hypo.
Hypo.
Their coach is a choker.
Fair enough. He's bad on the road. So I'll keep that as a win for now. I'll say, just because I'm feeling a little pessimistic, I'll say Texas, Ole Miss, LSU. I'd say those would be the 3.
Jay Lucas,
You could flip Ole Miss and Missouri.
Yeah.
Either one of those. I think you got to split those.
where you guys come down on all this?
I think ceiling is 10-2 if everybody's playing great. I still think you probably lose at Ole Miss, at LSU. And then for me to not be mad, I think 8-4 is the worst I want to see. And that would be Missouri, Ole Miss, LSU, Texas. The Texas game,
Not Alabama.
I don't think we should beat Alabama.
I think so too.
I don't think we should lose a home game.
I think so too.
I think you should win every home game outside of if you got the number 1 team in the country, Georgia, is destroying everybody, and they're coming to Norman, that's a game I see you losing.
Yeah, in a
But
future season.
I don't see Bama destroying everybody and coming to Norman and beating us.
Okay.
With the new now Nick Saban still there, then that's
Sure.
a 50-50 game. But I think it's 60-40 us with a new administrator, a new coaching staff there.
Right.
But again, Missouri's a toss-up to me. Texas is always a toss-up. We've had terrible teams that have beaten Texas.
And vice
We've had
versa.
amazing teams that have lost to Texas. So that's a toss-up. So Missouri's a toss-up. Texas is a toss-up. And then Ole Miss, I think Dart is good. I think Kiffin knows what he's doing, and that environment will be tough.
We'll just see. If
So
they
I'm
can
going to
put
pencil
the
that
team
in
together.
as a loss.
Yeah.
And then into the season, I don't think Brian Kelly is a great coach. But
But it's
LSU, if that's a night game, that could just be disastrous in general. So
or incredible.
I'll be disappointed if we go 7-5. I think 8-4, I'm okay with. 9-3, I'd be happy.
Jay, different?
No, not really hardly any different. Man, I think it depends. This is, of course, with everyone being healthy and etc.
Sure.
But I mean, Arnold could be that dude. I mean, if Arnold is what he can be, I think the sky's the limit, to be completely honest.
Well, and he's someone who's been overlooked as well, Mike.
the defense is going to have you in every single game. It's the offense is going to lose us football games. Let me put it that way. I don't think there's a single week that we play this entire season where we're sitting here doing our post-game pod. Just defense couldn't do anything. Just couldn't get it done. Offense is scoring. We're not going to lose 42-38. It's just not going to happen.
Wow, bookmark that.
I just don't think so. I
I-
just think the defense is going to do enough to where we're more talking about if there's a deficiency, it is on a young quarterback and his decisions. It's on an offensive line not being able to run the ball against somebody. That's where it's going to come from.
You don't think the defense could throw out 2 stinkers this season? That maybe Venables just gets out-coached because Lane Kiffin does a great job, or Missouri happens to just catch fire on offense?
Well, yeah, I
Defense
think
isn't ready for
everyone's
it?
capable of throwing out some stinkers. But if I had to choose which side of the ball is going to put out more stinkers, I would lean towards the offense.
Yeah, I agree.
And
Well,
I agree with that statement too, but to say that we couldn't lose a game 42-38 and we're blaming the defense, I think is crazy, because we've had great defenses in the past that have thrown a game out there where we've given up 3 50-yard touchdowns over the top or something, and we're just like, if the defense could have just played better deep balls, we win this game by 2 touchdowns.
I think it's horrifically disappointing with who we have on defense, to be honest with you, to have that type of game.
I'll give so.
No injuries.
I'll agree
You're
with
talking
that.
about Gentry Williams, Peyton Bowen,
Gentry hasn't played a full season.
Bowman, Robert Spears Jennings, and you're talking about like getting beat over the top all night. Throw in the
agree
whole
with
season
you.
if that's gonna. I don't know.
Luther
I'll
Burden
agree
is
with
a
you, except-
phenom.
but still.
he's good for a couple 50-yard touchdowns.
We said the same thing last year to an extent. And I know we had some injuries last year, but regardless, like we still had. I think we had a serviceable 2 deep. Again, you could go through what we did with the other 2022 team and compare and contrast. And I think in the front half of the season, we were doing exactly what you were doing. You were saying is defense is doing everything they need to do. I mean, we're holding teams to low amounts of points, low amounts of yards, and our offense isn't producing. And then we hit an impasse where, and Kansas is the prime example, where it's like we stopped playing.
We scored enough points to beat Kansas on offense.
Exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that's where one
That
of
would
the
be a
stinkers
stinker.
came from. And
Well, they scored 30.
It was that stupid rainstorm. We roll. If
well, we needed a stop and we got it, and then the offense couldn't get
Yeah.
a first
I
down.
got a freaking pick with.
And then we needed to stop, and they didn't get it.
well, yeah.
Yeah,
that's true.
but
and
we
had
needed
turnovers, we
a
had
start,
turnovers
and
when
we
didn't
didn't
have
get it.
turn-
Yeah.
So I agree, Jay. I think this defense is capable of going.
Yeah,
out
last
and
year I
putting on-
don't think the defense put up any real stinkers last year.
Arizona wasn't great.
You had
4
7
interceptions.
turnovers on offense or something. I mean,
UCF wasn't great.
but it was low. It was a low-scoring game. We couldn't.
That was
score.
that Texas hangover too, right?
Yeah, it was.
And I think
We
I
couldn't score though.
like to dig in a bit. These tough games. I think what's important to look at it. Who are we playing the week before? Who are they playing the week before? And I haven't. dug into
Actually,
that.
that's brutal because I think there's
We've got
something
Alabama, Missouri,
like
Alabama.
6
no,
or
there's like
7.
6 or 7 teams have a bye week before they play us.
Again. That's
that's
SEC,
brutal. Yeah, that is
tough.
really,
Texas
really,
paying
really,
people
really
Yeah. So
So if we kind of back to the playoff discussion. So obviously we all want the home playoff.
absolutely.
I want the bye.
Actually, no, I want the
I want
bye.
the bye.
Oh, okay.
If we have
Yeah.
to choose the home playoff, though, if that's it, or not getting the bye is a better question in this aspect. So I saw a matchup having Oregon at 5, us at 12. Do we go to Eugene to experience that playoff atmosphere
Oh, yeah.
as opposed
And
to
watch Dylan Gabriel dice us up with all his talent.
or a wrath.
Well, we'll know. We don't have to cover anything past 20 yards.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, make sure you have someone over the top for the interception. That's all I'm
Yeah, that's
saying.
right. Yeah.
So
Actually, yeah, I think
Put your punt
experiencing
returner
any
back there.
playoff game in that 12-team playoff before the bye week would be incredible.
it's gonna be amazing.
But here in Norman, being a higher seed, I mean, we've talked about it here. To have that atmosphere roll in here on,
Oh, my gosh.
on a cold December night,
Oh,
a
I'd
6
love a
o'clock
number
game,
6 OU versus a number, what would that be,
11.
11.
Penn State.
Oh,
Something like that.
yes.
Wow. Yeah.
We would stomp Penn State.
number 11.
That would be
game.
awesome. Oh, yeah. And Notre Dame's definitely in
Get
the
some
mix for
revenge.
that. Yeah,
That'd be cool.
that'd be very cool. Wow.
Sign me up.
We've got a lot, obviously, on future pods coming up to talk about with all this. It's just going to ramp up from here. I got one last question for you, Jayesh. Are you SEC ready?
Of course.
All right. All right. That's
Look
what
at his
we want to
hat.
hear.
He looks
That's
SEC
right.
ready.
That's right. He's definitely SEC ready. Well, thanks for being part of the podcast.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
It's great.
Thank you. It's
Come
been
back.
Great.
Absolutely.
Come
I'll
back
have
for a
you back
post game
on.
after we take you to a game.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Come to the game. We'll do a post game. We'll break it all down. We're gonna have a lot more, some more special guests coming up. We got a lot to cover, and it's gonna ramp up from here, guys. Until then, Boomer.
Sooner.